I had no idea where yesterday was going until I got there. I was looking at Twitter and I saw that Sherry Shepherd had actually covered for Wendy Williams, and she is hosting a Wendy Williams show. I guess maybe just for this week, or does it continue? I really don't know. I didn't really look into it, but when I saw Sherry Shepherd on Twitter, someone had actually posted part of the coverage that she had of the Sussexes. I was like, oh yeah, I got to see this. And it was so refreshing to see that she actually likes the Sussexes, or she's protective of them in some kind of way. So I was like, okay, this is cool. I can watch this. So that being said, I didn't go back and watch the entire thing. I just watched what was on Twitter and I was done with it. I, at that point, felt inspired to describe my feelings for Wendy Williams herself. I never, I guess, watched the Wendy Williams show. I may have seen the show occasionally. Like, let's say I watched it 10 times since it's been on. I think I watched when Aretha Franklin was on, and maybe a few other people, and that was it. But then I do have like flashbacks of some of her worst moments. Moments that involved Whitney Houston, Beyonce, and of course Tabitha Brown. You know, that's one of the more recent moments. And then there's, continuous attacks on the Duchess of Sussex. I can only describe my feeling for the Sussexes in this way. After the, okay, let's go back to the beginning. And I know I've mentioned this in maybe a handful of videos. I didn't know of the Duchess of Sussex until there was the engagement announcement. I hadn't watched cable TV for years. I always worked evenings, so I didn't keep up with any television program, and the only way I ever watched anything was after syndication, and eventually, once we began to stream everything, I started watching, the box set online or whatever. And so I had no awareness of the Duchess of Sussex in any way whatsoever. And maybe I've seen her before and I just did not make the connection, okay? And of course, Prince Harry. I've known Prince Harry since he was born, or known of him. And so I had that feeling of being protective of both brothers because, we all mourned for the Queen of Hearts, the Princess of our hearts, Princess Diana. We all mourned for her. So, of course, as millions of people around the world, I cried and cried and cried during the whole, march toward the funeral and everything, and of course the funeral. So, of course, my feelings toward Harry, there's that strong connection. So, I'm of a certain age where I can still remember the first celebrity death that affected me. And, when Princess Diana died, that, hit me really hard like it did the first time. And the second time and the third time. So, you have that connection. And I'm sure you all have experienced that. So, my connection to the Sussexes evolved in the weirdest kind of way. And if you haven't heard the story, it was Thanksgiving 2017. I saw there was a sale on plane tickets to Europe. So I said, oh, maybe it's time for me to go back to Europe. So I purchased a round trip ticket, and I wasn't even sure how long I would travel. So I said, 2 months. 2 months. I finally settled on 2 months. I had to make a decision. I tried to call everybody who I needed to talk to, the people who you say, I want to, and they'd say, yeah, do it. So I tried to call people, and I can't remember whether I got through to anybody or not, but next thing you know, I clicked the button and my ticket was confirmed, right? So I settled on the date of, April 14th, April 12th, something like that. And so I had family visiting, and I went to the living room. I said, guess what, y'all? I just bought me a ticket for Europe. You did? Yeah. And I want to say it was the next day, if I remember. The very next day, or soon thereafter, they said, well, there's a wedding announcement. Prince Harry is finally tying a knot. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's good. And so when I saw Meghan, I didn't know much about her background, but it didn't take long before the biggest thing people wanted you to know is that she was this biracial American princess, and this is the first time, and I don't even have to tell you, if I would have heard Wallace Simpson one more time, it would have been projectile vomiting all over the room. I mean, until I was just like withered away. I could not hear that enough, I suppose, because they just kept saying it. So I'm like, okay, yeah. So they're doing all this historic perspective and all that kind of stuff. And then finally, when the wedding date was set after the announcement, I'm like, well, let me see. I'm going in April. The wedding is in May. And so initially I thought I'll, do a tour of the UK and then I'll go to the continent after the wedding. But someone advised me it's going to get very hot in Spain. You better go to do the UK after and come here first. So that's what I did. And so I found myself heading back by train to London. Let's see, the wedding was on the 18th. I think I left on the 16th to go. I think I was in Rome. And then I went to Bolzano, Italy. And I spent like the day there because I had a layover with the train. And then, from there, I had to head back. And then I think I had to stay one night in Paris. And I think you guys saw that video recently where I was stuck in Paris for a day. And then finally off to London. And so I get to London. I'm dog tired. I mean, I was so tired. I just, I couldn't keep my eyes open. But I slept. And mind you, I'm going all over Europe by train. This is like the trip of a lifetime. And so when I finally wake up the day of the wedding, I'm just like, oh, I can't do it. And I said, no, you come this far, you gotta go. So I got up and I finally plotted everything out with the phone, with the Google search. And I figured it was going to take me like 2.5 hours to get there. And so I hopped on the train, another train, and anyway, so next thing you know, I'm in Windsor. And as I'm in Windsor, I'm walking from the train station. So they're like pushing the crowd further away from the castle because they're trying to spread people out on the parade route. And then they wouldn't let people through for about, maybe 45 minutes. No one could get through. And so some people got discouraged and turned around and they were leaving. And I almost joined them. And I said, nope. God has a plan. And God hasn't brought you this far for no reason. When you were a kid, you saw Princess Diana's wedding and you thought to yourself, I wonder what it would be like to be in the crowd. And I thought, 2018, here's another royal wedding. Here's my chance. Now, mind you, I had no interest in in William and Kate's wedding. None whatsoever. But Harry, just by chance, just by accident, I was in the right place at the right time. And then eventually, they opened up these barricades and it started letting more people through. And more people. And so I felt the whole camaraderie of the crowd. And, the whole connection of being there. And then finally, we pour out onto these streets. And so I can tell you exactly where I was. There was a part of the route where they went through the town, and then they had to make a turn to come up the big long walk or the long drive to the castle. I was probably somewhere like within a block of where they made that turn to go back the other direction. And I could see the big jumbotron across in the park, but I wasn't really close enough to like hear anything. So, and then it was just like the big anticipation of the Sussexes arriving. And I would say that from the time of the announcement and then setting the date for the wedding, I was all Harry and Meghan all the time. You know, especially Meghan, I had to play this catch up. And then I was like so excited. Oh my God, this is going to be a black princess, a black princess. So of course I was like all into it. I mean, I was consuming all of this, and I'm watching them go to Scotland. I watched them go to the castle. There's the castle in Wales, in Cardiff, and of course, since I had a rail pass, I went to the the castle in Cardiff. I went to Scotland. And I tried to follow their footsteps to the various places that they've gone. So I could promise you in that one trip, I may have seen more of the UK or more places, individual places in the UK, than a lot of people who were born and raised in the United Kingdom. So that was the extent of my journey. I even went to the Pavilion in Brighton. So, I'm following the Sussex's footsteps. So that's the connection that I have to Harry and Meghan. They became my safe space. And if I could explain that to you, my safe space with Harry and Meghan was, I got such a kick out of the walkabouts, greeting people, and I felt this strong sense of pride in seeing this American do the job, performing the role as needed as a princess of the realm. I got such a kick out of that. And see, a lot of people who do not come from an African American background, it may be difficult for you to understand this, but I grew up in a town where when we got our first black mayor, that was like, it seemed like the whole world was going to change. It was like the ending of one of those Star Wars movies where, people are being awarded and recognized, and their talents are being used, and all the benefits that comes from being in that moment. That's what it felt like. And it was the same way when we had a black president, and I don't think people who are not African American can fully understand why that is so important. But I don't limit that to just, this African American. I was proud to have a Jewish mayor. I was proud to have whatever part of Eastern Europe he was from for governor. I'm proud to have a Jewish governor now. I'm proud of the diversity. So I don't limit any of that to an individual race. What I'm celebrating is the tolerance that we have for one another. And I think it's worth celebrating. And so that's why when the Duchess of Sussex, the newly minted Duchess of Sussex, was there doing the work, I was like so into it. That was that big moment for us. And unfortunately, just like with the black mayor, the black president, and so many other situations, it was the antagonists that would not allow us to be happy, to allow us to do the work, to allow us to have that moment. It was always someone waiting in the wings to try to figure out some way to downplay and even outright destroy the image or character of these individuals who somehow beat the odds and got into a position of power or authority or fame or whatever you want to call it for the individual, reaching the highest office in the land in the United States. There's always someone there who wants to undermine that individual's achievement. I mean, here we have a president, I believe he has an Ivy League degree. I know that Michelle Obama has 2 Ivy League degrees. And there's somebody waiting in the wings to say, there's some type of usurper. They didn't earn this somehow they managed to sneak in under the radar or something like that. And that type of language is used so that other people in minority groups are not allowed to dream. They're trying to take away your ability to dream and reach higher. That always happens. And that's why I say if you live long enough, you're going to see everything twice. So I've seen this before with the Duchess of Sussex. And even when people, I'm being as naive as anybody else, even when people were trying to say the writing is on the wall, she won't make it, they'll never accept her, we won't have an activist princess or well, in some cases, people just flat out said she's going to taint the blood of the family. All of those things, I turned a deaf ear to it. I'm like, she's doing the work. How hard can it be? All you have to do is do this and do that. And who couldn't do that? I mean, you have a whole staff of people behind you. I didn't know that part of her staff was there to undermine her. I didn't know that there was this understanding amongst the people within certain parts of this household and that household that she is not to succeed no matter what. Now, whether it was the Oceania tour that this started, or maybe it started someplace else. But if I can quote the journalist who said pretty much the calls are coming from inside the house. And if you're of a certain age, that's a reference to a movie. When a stranger calls, then you know exactly what I'm speaking of. So I went through that very dark period like everybody else when she was pregnant, and you're seeing all this stuff in the papers about the Frogmore house, and they just installed a carpet bathtub, and they put in a yoga floor studio, it was just horrendous, and it was never ending. And I couldn't understand, how is there so much to talk about and she hadn't even left the house? You don't see her. And this is why it was so bad for people in the squad, because a lot of us, and I want to know about this in the comments, you may have found yourself going to some really dark places just to see a photo or to get some information or to know what she's doing and where she is and all that stuff, only to find out that they were obsessing about the repairs on Frogmore, the renovation of Frogmore, and her mother's moving in. All of this stuff that was kind of tinged with racial tropes of some type or another. That was a dark time. That was a very dark time. And I just remember hoping that things would get better and that this was just temporary, only to find out that it wasn't temporary and that it was quite deliberate, and it was part of some type of conspiracy, if you will. Whatever it was, and it wasn't getting any better. And I didn't even entertain the idea that they would leave the UK. I was hoping that they wouldn't leave. I was hoping that somehow this was going to work, and that they would call their dogs off, but they didn't, and it didn't work out, and they left. And while I was excited for them, I was very disappointed because selfishly, I got such a kick out of them performing their duties. It's like, you watch them connect with the world, and I didn't want that to end, so I didn't know what was going to happen with that. Well, fortunately, I don't have to wonder or wait or wring my hands in despair, because they're doing exactly what they were doing before. And as for the walkabouts, well, the walkabouts is actually a very modern construct. That was something that did not exist years ago. So that was actually one of the few steps toward modernity that the royal family has made, is to have the walkabout. But I would rather them safe and secure. I could live without the walkabouts. So yesterday in the comments, somebody said, "Oh, you need to make your videos a little longer," and so you know me, I know how to follow instructions, so that's what I'm doing right now. I'm just talking to you guys, and I hope that's okay. Probably no editing for this video because otherwise it would be well after midnight before I actually get it uploaded. But yeah, I had some projects I was working on here, and the day totally got away from me. But yeah, this is what was on my mind, and I just thought I'd share some of my thoughts about the Sussexes because there's a lot of people that are new to the channel. And if you want to know what it was like on the day of the wedding for me, I highly recommend you go back to the menu, go into the videos for this channel, and find the one for the anniversary. And it's their wedding date, so I think it's the 18th, 19th? 18th. I believe it's the 18th or 19th of May. That was when I uploaded that video. So that was a lot of fun to make. Brought back some warm memories. And so all the stuff that I'm talking about, you'd have a chance to see it. Now, FYI, the photos are not always great because the photos are basically my day. And I even had someone in the comments say, "Well, the photos aren't so great. They're not supposed to be. They're photos of me being there, not me with the vantage point of a photographer or something like that. It's just so you can see what it was like, step by step, to be on the ground from morning to it was over with." So, but it was a fun day. It was a fun day. And I feel very warm toward the Sussexes, even more so. I mean, my feelings for them as a couple and as a family, and that, of course, includes Doria. My feelings have only grown over time. And one of the reasons why I started this channel, just so you know, is because there's a lot of people that I just couldn't talk to. So I got you guys now. But before, it was like I would mention Harry and Meghan, and people would give me that kind of, arched eyebrow. Why do you even care? But it's the principle of their struggle, which is why I care. I care about them as human beings, and I care about them on principle. And when I stand on principle, whether it's for the Obamas or for the Clintons or even for the Gores or the whoever, the Harris and her husband, whatever his name is. When I'm standing on principle for people, when my values align with someone else's values, they don't have to be perfect people. And I know that the politicians that I mentioned, they are not perfect people, and they have made mistakes. The Bidens have made mistakes. But I'm still going to support them, whether it's in a more direct way or a casual way, because on principle, our values align. And so we have to be mature enough to make sure that we stay on the side of the issues that are very important to us. And some of the petty things that have happened in the past, just like a bad relationship, got to let that go. And don't worry about what happened in the past. Just be here in the present and appreciate those people for their consistency of being a good person or doing good deeds. And if they have stumbled or made a mistake along the way, if that's not their finest moment, try to overlook that. So that's why I support the people that I do, and I will continue to support those people. So in more of the present tense, there are going to be many activities with the Sussexes coming up, and I couldn't be more thrilled. I mean, gosh, I wish I could be there. But it's going to be some activities coming up with the Sussexes, and I'm definitely going to, try to get as close as I can to these events so that I can talk about them or read as much as I can. So we'll see what happens. And of course, the best part of every weekend is hello, Ivy here. That is the best part of my weekend. If you want to know why I got so passionate talking about Wendy Williams, the last Sunday podcast from Ivy, she kind of got a little more passionate than usual. And, maybe that was my inspiration. Because I tell you, every time I watch one of Ivy's podcasts, I walk away more informed and more aware than I was before I switched it on. So, it's very much something that I use as kind of a guide now to get to the source of things, or at least to be more curious about getting to the source of things. Hopefully Tina and Michelle will be on this weekend, I hope. If not, they got some things going on. They're very busy, so if they're not available for us, just so that they know that they're in our thoughts and that we're, sending positive energy their way, that's very important. Oh my goodness, I just realized I didn't mention this. After the wedding, you'll see that in the anniversary video, I think, but after the wedding, I had a chance to see Harry and Meghan again that very same visit when I went to the Troop in the Colors. Did I not mention that? Yeah, but I saw them again at Troop in the Colors, and that was phenomenal. So I don't know. One of these days, I don't know whether it's going to be in The Hague or someplace else, but I am definitely looking forward to seeing the Sussexes. That's it for now. Please like, subscribe, share, donate, etc. If you would like to make a donation and you don't know how, to help support this channel, you can go to the comments section where you can find links to the Patreon, the PayPal, and the Cash App. Thanks for watching Royal Sussex.